my goodness, I am so excited to bring to you Starbase 80 today, right now. Now, I'm gonna tell you right up front. This is a pre-recorded episode because we had timing issues, as they happen in this busy world, and the number one most wanted talent from this show he's being whisked off to a private jet. He will be flown across the country where they will sit him down in a throne that says King of the Ring on the back of it, because they're not using it at this time of the year. And they will give him giant buckets of delicious food, and they will bring to him beverages and treat him like a prince. And that man is here with us today before all this important stuff happens. So appreciate how lucky you are, as I do. I appreciate how lucky you are. I appreciate how lucky I am, because we get to sit down with royalty. Ladies and gentlemen, it is Prince Flobo.
A king treated like a prince. Sign me up there, Captain. Yes, that's true. My first act of diplomacy is to sit down with the Honduran government, talk about copyright issues. So I'm so glad that I got crowned this week. Let's do it.
Our very own Prince T'Challa.
Obito forever.
I'm so glad you're here, Flobo. Flobo, just, so the world can get into your business just a little bit.
Oh, yeah.
What are you up to this weekend that precludes doing a live Starbase 80?
Oh, absolutely. So one of my real life jobs, I work for Spotify on a podcast called Mac Mania. They are flying me out for not Summerfest, not Super Slam, but SummerSlam this weekend. So while this records, I'll probably be on the tarmac back from Los Angeles, but I didn't want to run the risk of missing the episode outright. So we're just recording it early.
And really, Starbase 80, very much a show about two friends, Captain John and Cammander Flobo. And we get together, we watch an episode of Star Trek. It's usually something that I chose, and it's usually something that I very much want to hear Flobo's opinion about it.
Oh, man.
And it's almost never a show that Flobo has seen before.
Yeah.
So we're getting first impressions. We are getting fresh impressions from Flobo. And yeah, let's talk about this week's episode, Far Beyond the Stars, from Star Trek's Deep Space Nine. Wow. Okay, I'm already getting a lot of emotion from you.
Oh, yeah.
That I did not expect.
Yeah.
Let me just throw this out. This is one of my favorite episodes of Star Trek. And I realized why. As we go, I'll find a time to reveal why it's one of my favorites. It first aired on February 11th of 1998. Mr. Boyce, where were you in 1998?
1998. I know exactly where I was. I was raised by television. Okay, that's when my mom did like 3 jobs. My dad did 3 jobs. So I was at home that summer or that day. It was the year after Disney World. I was 13. I couldn't do much. I couldn't get a car and get out of here. So I either walked around the mall or stayed at my house.
98. Where were we in 98? We were already out here. I guess we were living in Sherman Oaks, California, in a lovely house up in the foothills. And yeah, I did see this when it came out. Some episodes I had to see later when DS9 was in syndication. That's when I really finished my full tour of DS9. But I did see this one. I remember thinking it was really unusual at the time, and it is unusual. I wasn't wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, the plot of this one is that Captain Sisko, during the heat of the Dominion War, they are suffering a lot of losses, the Federation, in the Dominion War at this point. And Captain Sisko's friend is missing, and they presume destroyed by the Jem'Hadar, who are the aliens that fly around for the Dominion. Super soldiers, extremely difficult to defeat, just dangerous, just a death sentence anytime you meet them. And as he struggles with maybe he should just retire, maybe he should just get out of this war, just leave now. As he struggles with that, he goes into a vision, as has happened to Captain Sisko before, because of his relationship with the prophets, the wormhole aliens. I was trying to do this quickly. And and he gets a vision that sends him to New York City.
New York City.
1953, in which he seems to be living the life of a writer named Benny Russell, a science fiction writer. And Benny Russell is dealing with a lot of the things that a black man would deal with in America in the early 1950s. And of course, it's not pretty, and it gets really,
but it's so
really
much better
rough.
Now, though. So we're totally fine. Racism is over.
Now that all of the I mean, there's like police brutality, there's all kinds of occupational racism that he's dealing with, and it's a tough story. Not a lot of ray guns, no bug-eyed monsters. So right there, that's a minus for me.
I don't know if you can see this, John, but your camera disappeared. So I'm talking to Jonathan Frakes.
What in the dickens? Your browser has lost connection to your camera. Make sure you have the right camera chosen.
Oh no! Well, that just happens.
I was staring at the Memory Alpha page while I was doing this, so I had no idea this happened. All right, you can click the camera button to try again. Oh,
this is what happens when we do that pre-tape episodes, man. It's like live to tape TV. Am I right?
Something always goes wrong. Okay, yeah. Start cam. My camera was on at one point. Command
it was.
E. Command E. I've never hit Command E in my life. What in the dickens? We're keeping that, by the way.
You came back from the Phantom Zone, the pattern buffer, whatever you want to call it, man. You're back.
I am not going back and restarting this. We are working from here. This is me yelling at me. This is like
I'll turn this starbase around, but they don't really move. I'll turn the starbase around.
So, Flobo.
Yo.
How did you feel in general so far, without discussion? How did you feel about this episode, Far Beyond the Stars?
Oh man, Star Trek is so woke these days. All the talk about the things and issues and people. It's not like how it was when I grew up. No, I think ultimately I didn't expect it. I felt like the title was going to imply something else. Yeah. Oh, I thought Far Beyond the Stars was going to be like a dogfighting episode with like ray guns and pew pew pew. So it was kind of a downshift, but ultimately it was ending of television.
I'm fascinated by this episode on many levels, and as you know, I am a huge fan of Deep Space Nine. I'm also a huge fan of how Star Trek evolved as it was being made. This was, of course, the third series. You've got TOS, the original series, Star Trek, TNG, The Next Generation, and then third, they made the movies as well, so those are all part of the canon. But third, you have Deep Space Nine. We are in, with this one, we are in the 6th episode, and we're about halfway through the season. This is episode 13. And there are times, and we've discussed this many times with Star Trek, that it seems like an episode comes along to break the routine. I would say monotony.
Sure.
And there is this ongoing, much larger story of the Dominion War, which I always admired so much about Deep Space Nine, that they would let this war be so long and so exhausting as war can be. Here's the thing. I feel like this episode Did you notice, Mr. Boyce?
I usually don't, but continue.
Did you notice who the director was of this episode?
I did not. Who was the director of the episode?
Avery Brooks.
Oh, that explains a lot. All right. You know what? Okay.
Yeah.
You know what? Yeah. Good old Benny, making sure you get the best shots, the best dialogue. Okay.
The kind of the beauty of this episode, I think, is how it was originally pitched. It was originally pitched that it was going to happen to Jake Sisko, played by Sarah Lofton, the son of Captain Sisko, and that he was going to sort of, it was one of those like, you don't know old-timey racism until you experience it.
Right.
And that was the idea, that was going to happen to Jake. They found that very sort of one message, kind of one tone. It didn't particularly work for the actors and story editors. It stuck around though. And once Avery Brooks got a hold of it, and it was about Captain Sisko going through more of the hallucinations that he goes through as a chosen one, as the emissary of the prophets. Mm-hmm. Do you get emissary tired, Mr. Boyce?
Absolutely. Because it's a holodeck episode, isn't it? It's a glorified holodeck episode.
Damn. Damn. Oh, that is a sizzling hot take.
Hot take, yo. The show itself was fun, but like how we got there was like, oh, yeah, he's having visions again. How about that? Just after 4 or 5 episodes, a random vision. Let's go. Woo.
I could actually hear your eyes roll.
Oh yeah, it's like waiting online for a roller coaster at Six Flags. Yeah, man, the coaster is fun, but who wants to be online for that long? Like, come on.
Okay, now, what these episodes tend to bring to us, just like holodeck episodes. Oh, damn, you got us there, Flobo. I think there's any getting out from under that now. Yeah. I mean, this is very much like a holodeck episode. We saw Our Man Bashir not too long ago, a literal holodeck episode. And it accomplished a little bit of what we're getting in this episode. And that is a recasting of these actors. So when Benjamin Sisko goes into the world of Benny Russell, he is surrounded by a supporting cast, people that he sees every day, the kid at the newsstand, a couple of corrupt, just total a-hole cops, all the people he works with at the office of Incredible Tales. Mm-hmm. I also love that one of the first things that happens when Captain Sisko goes to this world, not really travels through time, but he is there. He is at a newsstand holding Galaxy magazine. Mm. Now, Galaxy magazine was actually very important because a lot of the writers that would end up writing for classic Star Trek wrote for Galaxy magazine.
Oh, I know, it was real sweet.
And Galaxy magazine had, I'm sorry, the sun's starting to come out up here, so it's good.
The suspense, Captain.
Galaxy magazine is also like the #1 magazine that their magazine is competing against. And of course, theirs is a fictional magazine. And again, Incredible Tales. I had this.
Yeah.
I had this. What
Incredible. Wish we had a live chat to help us out. Yeah, Incredible Tales. Incredible Tales.
Thank you. Yeah. And I'm sure the live chat is helping out this recording. Unfortunately, the folks in chat weren't with us when we were recording this. I love the recasting, as you know. I'm always like, oh, I can't believe we got to see, Renee Auberjonois out of the Odo makeup.
Right.
And they're creating characters at the same time. How'd you feel about this supporting cast?
Oh yeah, I think this is the best recast I've seen, and we saw Our Man Bashir. It was kind of interesting, and it plays in. I think they were a great re-imaging of characters and great interplay because of what those characters are afterwards. I'm not sure how deep you're going to go into that, but if I had to rank it, it's one of the better ones.
Oh, good. Oh, I'm thrilled with that. I've been trying to get you to like holodeck episodes forever.
Now so you admit it.
So, what we get here is there's a villain. He's basically the bureaucrat in charge, played by Rene Auberjonois. And hang on, let me get his name. He's Pabst, I believe.
Yeah, you're right. Auberjonois, right? I think that's correct.
Named after not a fantastic beer, but a good one. Also at the office, I'm gonna build up to him. We have Herbert Rossoff, played by Armin Shimmerman, who normally plays Quark.
Yeah.
What did you think of this character, who at one point is accused of being a communist?
Oh yeah, that was kind of fun, right? There's a lot of canonical or non-canonical discussion about what are the Ferengi.
Yeah,
and I do thought that was kind of a way to subvert that in a modern space, and I'll just leave it at that. Come not get yeah, y'all ain't canceling me, bro.
Oh, very interesting. I don't know if I want to chase that particular rabbit down the hole, but honestly, I did. One of the things that did happen in the 50s, the racism was spread all over the place. There was plenty of racism for everybody.
Yeah. It's like, thanks for helping us win the war, but at the same time, no thanks to all of you people. Like, wait, hold on.
Yeah, there and really, like the labor movement in the United States. I love when I start a sentence like that here on Starbase 80, as if I'm some sort of history professor or something.
You are to me.
The labor movement in the United States actually leaned very heavily on progressive. What do they call them? I mean, it's a kind of socialist, but it's an American socialist.
Oh,
they very much believe in the labor movement, so unions can stand up to corporations and get good deals and make good bargains. This existed. It was also routinely attacked by the anti-communist movement, even though it wasn't communist. It was more like, we're just going to take on capitalism. But that's just me throwing in my 2 cents. What do I know? But it's fascinating. They peppered that in there. So it also, I think, gives a great reference to how people felt about Benny's story immediately around him. The people in the office really like Benny. They believe in him. And when he's writing his stories, they really respond well to them. And there is kind of a feeling of like, we're in this together when it comes to Herbert Rossoff, played by Armin Shimmerman, who normally plays Quark. So I like that. I don't know. Did you feel it was realistic, the relationship Benny had to everyone else?
No. In a word, no. But I think what it was presented was the best for everyone. Definitely a revisionist look of what race relations were. Because you could argue that Benny would have been hired in the first place, and if he was hired, he wouldn't be doing work on level with anyone else. But the real evil that is racism, y'all, is being played that it's not so much that character believes in it more or less necessarily, but rather they can understand that side and is trying to rationalize it. I think it's a lot more compelling television, because you don't really know if your man Odo is racist or agrees with it, or just a guy just being told what to do. Now you can argue that silence is as bad as being a part of it, but I think that's a lot better to like have those boxing matches scene per scene. They're really being like, Negroes, you know what I mean?
Right. And that I like that sort of left open too. I think that might also be Avery Brooks kind of showing, how he thinks and how he feels, which is, if you can't stand up in a big, meaningful way, then it's kind of inconsequential. And I hate for even saying kind of. It is inconsequential.
Right.
And we will see how this pressure bears down, because it's not a big story here. Not a whole lot of plot. Basically, there are moments, and it's extremely, I think, like, what's the movie I'm looking for? Leonardo DiCaprio and Elliot Page is in it, and it's
Up in the Air.
It's the movie about you perceptions.
Oh,
And
Inception.
Thank you. Oh my god.
So I don't know why it's Up in the Air. Like, I thought that was George Clooney and Anna Kendrick. What the hell am I doing, Flobo?
Hey, you're not the one. You're not the one who blanked on Inception. Good lord.
So what about Perceptions? I don't know.
I'm sure the credits are going nuts. Like, you seriously didn't remember Inception? Seriously? So that is happening a lot. This is there are moments where Benny Russell looks into a reflection of his window and he sees Benjamin Sisko looking back at him. There are also great castings, like his dad, the elder Mr. Sisko, is in this as well. Brock Peters playing Joe Sisko. But in the world of Benny Russell, he is a preacher. He's a street preacher, and he keeps talking about walking the road of the prophets, and that the prophets bring good, but they also bring pain. Were you feeling the foreboding feeling they were going for here?
No, but it's not really their fault. It's kind of my fault, because that's the first time I've seen Joe Sisko ever. So it kind of came out of nowhere, being like, well, why are you the guy doing all that stuff? But I know it's definitely a Flobito problem. So
not a huge Flobito problem, because there's a lot of I love the fact that the dad's always like, well, this crazy prophet stuff that you have in your life. One of the things you're going to find, and I'm not giving away anything huge, but we do find out that Ben Sisko's mother was one of the prophets.
And
that's why he has such a tight relationship. So it always makes me laugh when Joseph Sisko is saying, like, well, all this prophet nonsense. Like, dude, you banged a prophet. That's how we got here.
I just want you like inside of one, like the transporters. Hey, you banged a prophet.
Hey,
engage.
No, don't think you don't know about that.
Hey, where'd he
go? me and Linus hanging out.
Yeah, exactly. Linus.
None of my business. Oh my God! Someone's gonna make the meme where Linus is, instead of Kermit the Frog, is sipping the tea.
Sipping the tea.
I gotta get right on that.
Right.
So as the story goes, it becomes quite clear that racism is freaking horrible, that the life of Benny Russell is being made so much worse because of the racism he faces on the street, he faces in work. The breaking point comes when it's a slow breaking point, isn't it? Because he writes an amazing story based on a drawing he's given of Deep Space Nine about Benjamin Sisko.
Mm-hmm.
So now we have this weird cycle going through where the Benny Russell life that we think isn't true is now reflecting the life that we know to be true, which is that Captain Sisko exists.
Yeah.
And he's told, we won't publish that. That's not going to be published. And so he tries to figure out how to deal with this. It's like his greatest creation, but because of racism, they will not publish it. And then he runs into the street preacher who says, you got to walk with the prophets. You got to be true to yourself. And he writes more. He writes even more. Do you buy, Flobo, this metaphysical quandary they've put us into, which tells us that there is a character to whom Captain Sisko is a character, and he's basically writing that existence?
kind of a cool Easter egg for us watching, but it's a bit of a stretch. That to me wasn't the engaging part, right? The engaging part was it could have been about something completely different, and it could have been the same exact beat for beat, and it would have had the same exact thing. I think it's just to make sure you people realize at home, hey, it's still Star Trek. I guarantee you, I promise you, it's Star Trek involved, and so maybe not for me, but I'm sure for someone kind of would enjoy it.
Yeah. I know. I kind of like that setup myself, mostly because I'm a fan, and I kind of like going a little deeper here.
No, I'm just kidding. It's fine.
But what we're looking at too is we're looking at a compromise that Benny is forced to make. What if, I can't remember who suggested it either. Is it Miles O'Brien playing yet another American?
Yes.
I don't know about
that. Like, can someone stop this man? He's getting into like Harry Kim levels of unlikability for me.
Not good, Chief O'Brien. Really, not the greatest Chief O'Brien. There's a compromise that someone comes up with. What if you have a character, and I remember one of the suggestions they have is, what if he's a convict and yet he's dreaming of being Captain Sisko? That way, if it's just a dream, you can tell the story.
Mm-hmm.
Does that sound horrible to you?
I guess it does now. But if I were in the 1950s, I think that's a good compromise. Because again, I have to just suspend disbelief. I am a black man working out of the number 2 whatever paper and treated as equal as everyone else. So I guess in that world, I'd have been like, yeah, sure. But watching it on TV, I'm like, wait, oh no, you don't, Sisko. Don't say that. Be like, no, stand up for yourself. Don't go in that basement. You know what I mean? It's just, but he's right.
Yeah, I mean, compromise is what he follows. It's how he works. We can't judge that because he has no choices. There's no power. There's no agency in the life of Benny Russell. It turns out that even though they did that, Benny Russell doesn't quite get to enjoy it because Cirroc Lofton is playing a character named Jimmy. Jimmy's always trying to sell Benny Russell a watch.
Mm-hmm.
And we know that watch probably fell off a truck. I'm thinking.
The Lancy C special.
And so Jimmy's potentially always in trouble. He is being murdered by the 2 cops played by, did you notice this? The cops were played by the characters the actors who play Gul Dukat and Weyoun. Mark Alamo as Gul Dukat and Jeffrey Combs as Weyoun. Did you pick up on that, right?
Yeah, they made it obvious. Thank God. for noobs like me, as a reference I actually understood. I'm like, thanks, TV. Woo!
This really is another one of my favorite features of the episode, is that you get to see these actors without the makeup.
Right.
Although there are times that the hallucination kind of flips and they are suddenly standing in makeup. Sort of out of context, which I think is wild, because that means that these guys were told, hey, you get to do most of the week without wearing all that makeup you normally wear. But like for 1 or 2 shots, you're going to have to sit through 3 hours of makeup.
Yeah. Sucks to be that. Or you think it's reused footage? I couldn't tell.
No, it looked like they shot it.
Dang,
fresh.
Sucks.
Yeah. Well, and I think that's another vote of confidence for how much everybody loves and respects Avery Brooks, because yeah, sure, Avery, I'll do it for you.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like for me.
Are you sure they weren't threatened by a man called Hawk? Because I would definitely do something if he did that.
At one point, Benny Russell puts on sunglasses. And I go, wait, those are the man from Hawk sunglasses, are they not?
There you go, baby. Where's Spencer at?
The other little features that come through this, so this is me, but I want to know how you felt about it. First off, the artist, Roy Rittenhouse, is played by J.G. Hertzler. Do you know the character Martok very well?
No.
He's the one-eyed Klingon.
Oh, yes. The one-eyed Klingon. Yes. I'm bringing a picture of him now. Yeah.
And that's who played Roy. And he's just got the same voice. I ate some wild food for dinner last night, so these illustrations are going to blow your mind.
His hair is wild. It's unmanageable.
I can identify. I'm like, oh, thank God I found one of my people.
Anyway,
there's another. So the news vendor was played by Aaron Eisenberg. He is Nog.
Did I know that?
He's great. He is so great in this. You ask me, flying saucers, they ain't no good. I like war pictures. Nah. I loved that. That really worked for me. Here's one of the things that I really wanted to try out on you, because I know you don't normally like Worf.
Normally.
Michael Dorn appears in Benny Russell's world as a baseball player named Willie Hawkins.
Mm-hmm.
What did you think of Michael Dorn as Willie Hawkins?
Well, as a baseball guy, I was torn. I go, hey, look, it's because Sisko's a baseball guy, so I was kind of cool. They brought that part in there, and if you're going to hallucinate, I was putting things you love. But that guy was kind of slimy. Not kind of, he was. Try to slide up on his woman like that. And by the way, Cassidy ate Sisko this week.
Right?
But no, he's a jerk. He's a bum. He's miserable.
So you didn't. I thought that was a great portrayal. I thought he was doing great dialogue work. Really, I don't think Michael Dorn gets enough credit for how funny he can be.
Fair. It's a good portrayal on the acting side. So I'm not knocking Michael Dorn. It's always Worf. But his character slide up in the DMs before they were DMs is not cool.
And I have to agree that Miss Penny Johnson is just fantastic. Cassidy Yates in the DS9 reality and playing Cassie, the fiancée of Benny Russell in this episode. I find it very significant how I think everyone should watch this episode and watch how these actors are working, because not only are they doing what they do and they're doing it without makeup, they're playing different characters, but they're also being directed by their good friend, Avery Brooks. I love seeing the choices they're making. And can I just throw in Nana Visitor, who plays Kira Nerys?
Hot.
She was playing Kay Eaton. Because she's a woman, she can't be revealed as being a writer, just like Benny Russell can't reveal it being a black man.
Sure.
But she can change her name, and she does, to K.C. Hunter, which I kind of love.
Oh, yeah. This is what I'm saying. I think everything would have been true, but to have that one newspaper company have that both happening at the same time and then have the nerve to do picture day just seems a little bit heightened for me. Because wait a minute. The odds.
I mean, it is New York City, and like I don't know a lot about publishing and a lot about like sci-fi magazines, but I can tell you that in old time radio, there were Asian people playing white people. There were very occasionally black people playing people who, either had indeterminate race or were different races. Not a lot of black people playing white people, but a lot of black people playing like Indians and Asian people.
Yeah.
It did happen. Not that anyone was colorblind, but a lot of times the talent won out. And really, I think that's what people love about life. Just get me the most talented person. We can change a lot of perceptions that way.
Oh, yeah. Just a meritocracy. Yep.
I mean, that's what people pretend they like. If they really liked it, the world would be a better place. I'm going to now ask you about the camera work. Now, I think it was very different in this episode from what you would normally get in a Star Trek episode. Did that pop on your radar at all?
So a lot of it was for the benefit of things, because New York City, especially that time, we have a very romantic view of mid-century big cities. So it does serve that well. Although I could have done without the man in the mirror shots, both of them. I thought that was super heavy-handed. I see myself, but I'm different. Man. Wah.
I love it though. I mean,
any producer would be like, really? You're doing this not once but twice? Jeez,
they pay money for that too. Like, that's actual CGI money on the table. They had to pay for that. And so you felt like maybe a little heavy-handed direction there?
Little heavy-handed. It was a sledgehammer of a shot. I see myself in Benny, and Benny is Sisko.
I think also you've got Avery Brooks creating a different character. On one hand, he's got his character of Benjamin Sisko. On the other hand, he's got his character of Benny Russell. Did you feel those characters were delineated?
I felt like it was just Sisko being Benny, which is not a bad thing. I'm not trying to say, oh, he has no range. It's just if everyone's going to be different, it's good to have an anchor. And I thought Benny was an anchor, or Benjamin Sisko was an anchor, especially he's the one who's hallucinating.
Yeah. Now, Benny Russell is he's mentally fragile from all of the crap that he's going through, but I think he's also kind of a very shy, withdrawn character as well. He finally suffers a breakdown. The big action kaboom that happens in this episode it's all just too much for him.
Mm-hmm.
And it is striking that is the story that Avery Brooks is telling, because he just absolutely breaks down in tears. And I don't know that people give Avery Brooks enough credit for his theatrical power. How did you feel about that breakdown? Because that is so unusual for sci-fi TV anyway, but TV period.
Choose the words carefully. For what it was, it served its purpose. Did it move me? No, because I do feel like Sisko has traditionally had a wooden delivery. I haven't watched a lot of Avery Brooks' television stuff before this, so I only seen an episode of Hawk here and there. But when he says his lines, it typically comes from a bit of an aloofness. It's like if David Caruso were to break down and cry, I would go, okay. But I wouldn't say I was moved if Horatio Kane started sobbing, But I understand, though, the gravitas of the moment. So I don't say it to drag anybody. I'm just saying there was no visceral reaction.
Interesting. Maybe it's just like the
whole world agrees with you. I'm just a cold, heartless jerk.
I mean, there are times when I wonder if the story I'm being told about race is a story being told to a liberal who has sympathy and empathy, who tries to do my best to be a good person when it comes to race. Is this message more for me than it is for someone who actually goes through racism, like unfiltered, many times in his life, which I would assume is you?
I would say this. This is a good example of the post-racism. I think when a lot of people are challenged and we say, hey, look, that's racist, I think a lot of people who are not, I hate to use the phrase, people of color, all you monochromatic sons of guns, will look at it as the guy coming out of the haystack, be like, hey, go back to where you come from. And that exists, not knocking that. But what we're seeing in one, the future, or two, a progressive city in a particular time period are the smaller things. Yeah, there were a bunch of wise guys talking crap, but they're talking crap. They're in the city, toughen up. Or, yeah, we understand there are rules and policies for a company, but why do rules and policies affect these people over these people? And I think when people understand that becomes a lot more of a prismatic view of that. But at the same time, for someone who does live through it, it to me seems redundant. It's like we're doing a whole show about air and gravity. Like, I don't understand. But maybe someone who doesn't see it that way would be like, oh wow, I never saw it that way. So that serves its purpose.
There's this incredible line that Pabst says, that the editor-in-chief says, which is, I'm sorry you can't be in the group photo of all the writers, Benny, but our readers want to think that their writers are as white as them.
Mm-hmm.
And that if that doesn't hit you like a wrecking ball, especially knowing that, that trope in science fiction and horror for so long, which was, oh, the black guy's going to go downstairs and investigate.
Yeah.
Say goodbye.
Well, yeah. That was a double-edged sword there. One, there was the portrayal of lack of intelligence. And two, if this person could take out a stronger, more intimidating person, I think as a black person, this thing must be a bad news situation. That's pretty much why we're using it as that device. But I get it. I mean, I get it. But again, that part wasn't for me. What was for me is the openness of Odo's character being like, I don't really know if I believe this, but it's kind of my job, and I got these masters. It could be an excuse, it could be game, but I do believe. Like, to me, that ambiguousness was kind of cool and refreshing, especially back then.
Yeah. There are no truly brave people. There are very few truly
Quark was.
brave people. and that's the thing. Allyship is its own story and its own journey. It is not it's not the same. But there is a story there of, I wish I could have done more. I wish I could have said more. I wish I could have protected my friend, defended my friend. Stood with my friend and said, look, this is my friend. We are equal. You treat us the same. But it's not, it's an important story to the white allies. It's not the most important story.
Right.
And yet, because the white allies make a lot of these things, I find it very refreshing in this episode, in which Avery Brooks has a lot of control over how it ends. What's the story he's telling about all of these people? It's a very interesting way that he's gone, where he shows, the confrontation, that it's very hard for a victim of racism to win this confrontation.
Yeah.
But it's also, there are people on the sidelines who are like, oh man, I really wish we could fix this. I wish I could see a spot. And he tells their story too. I find that very generous.
Yeah.
And it's real. It's real for a lot of Star Trek fans. Star Trek fans tend to be people who want things to get better so that we can get to that Star Trek level.
Maybe. I'm not sure if I agree.
Oh, okay. Well, tell me about that.
There are people that feel that way. There are examples. I always bring this example up in the show, but forgive me. But when we had the first Maori news anchor, and she had like the lip tattoo, and I forget her name escapes me. I forget this. I'll look this up. To me, I thought it was pretty much rank and file. I go, hey, look, I'm from a place where or a Star Trek fandom where we see people from all walks of life doing different things of merit and note. So it didn't really bother to me. But at the same time, there is a bit of Pax Americana, especially in this country, when it comes to science fiction. Like, we are exploring and we're interacting, so they think the best of the best will go. The square jaw, the ray gun holding, the Adam Stranges of the world. And so when you see someone who looks like Sisko commanding, I wasn't around, but I could tell you, I guess when these episodes released, people were saying Sisko was the worst captain ever, or worst commander ever. I could just tell, because it was so different, and he was such a different kind of captain. And now we're able to have situations where we go, well, I don't like them because of the decisions they make, as opposed to they're not right. Burnham cries too much. Okay. I don't care. I don't see color. It's up. I don't care if you're white, black, purple, or green, but why are there so many Negroes on my, what I'm saying? It's just a weird thing, man.
Yeah. There's there's very much the colonizer mentality, very much the white man's burden mentality, that was in earliest Star Trek, not featured.
Oh, let me jump in there. I actually had it here. Orini Kaipara, the first Maori newscaster.
And she just got all kinds of crap
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
for being nothing other than a person who had a traditional tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Still a good newsreader, still, good for the job. It's just she had her own cultural thing on display.
Yeah.
Yeah, there are a lot of people out there who are, look, I don't care what you people do, just as long as you people are not in front of me doing what you people do.
Yeah. And you
There's
know
a
what? I don't blame that. This is a hot take, spicy take. I give you a story real quick, and I know this is not the whole point of the show,
Oh,
but
no, please.
I was invited to a wedding in the Florida Panhandle about, I guess, now 15 years ago, and I was a groomsman because I knew the groom, and I got the microaggressions all week because the first day of rehearsal I wore a t-shirt, black t-shirt in white like paint. They went like get paid or something, stay paid or something like that, and everyone kind of nodded and kept their distance. And the next day I wore the suit. And everyone came up to me after that, being like, "Oh, you clean up very nice." I was a little concerned. I was a little worried, and I got so upset. But I looked around here on the Panhandle in Niceville, Florida, which is actually a name of real town, and I was the only black person I saw. Sans one drug dealer the entire weekend. Not saying it's right, but if you don't have any experience with these people, you're going to think a certain way. So I always ask someone who goes, "Oh, the good old days," or when people were the milkman and the TV repairman. I go, that was a time that didn't exist for many of us,
Right. Yeah. And a lot of times people are trying to maintain through their racism, they're trying to maintain something that they thought existed. The, white picket fence, milkman comes every day, Mayberry, Mayfield, where Leave It to Beaver took place. You know, that was never quite reality. But a lot of people are willing to throw themselves in front of the wheels of progress because they think it was, and they want to
Right.
go back to it.
Right.
That was a big feature of the 80s. A lot of people don't remember how big that was in the 80s under Ronald Reagan. But there really was this love for the 1950s, a 1950s that did not exist for a lot of people. If you were a woman, if you were Jewish, if you were black, if you were Hispanic, if you were Asian, there were places that you were supposed to go. If you were gay, there were places that you were supposed to go out of the spotlight, out of the main, driveway of life, out of the anyway. It always bothered me, and it bothered a lot of my friends, because we knew it was all bullcrap. We knew that America had not existed. It was just portrayed.
Well, I don't blame America for doing that on a PR level. You got your ass kicked in Vietnam. Let's go back to where we're winners. The 50s. Yeah.
Damn. I never thought of that. Because if you think about it, I always wondered, like, where did this love of the 1950s come from? And one of the big features of it was the movie American Graffiti. So that's like 1971, 72, 73 when American Graffiti, and it was in theaters for like all year. Like, it was held over. That movie was so beloved. The catchphrase was, "Where were you in 62?" But my dad, among other people who were quite active and teenagers in the late 1950s, said, "Oh, no. They'll say 1962, but they're really 9." Like I was there. That's what it was like. And yeah, there was a certain, then there was Happy Days, and then there was, Sha-na-na, and, there was this love for the 50s that came along. This 1950s that we are seeing in Far Beyond the Stars, in Deep Space Nine, it creates Benny Russell. There's an ending to this story, and it's kind of fantastic. I'm kind of hoping it'll hit you where you live, Flobo. You will remember very, very recently that we watched Strange New Worlds. And there was a book that Dr. Mabenga would read to his daughter, Rukia.
Mm-hmm.
called The Kingdom of Elysian.
Yes.
Do you know the author of this book?
No, but if I had to guess, Ben Russell? Benny Russell?
Ben Russell. Benny
Dang.
Russell. Benny Russell writes The Kingdom of Elysian, and it becomes the favorite book of this little girl, Rukia. And it is, man, that hits me in the feels.
Yeah.
That gets me hard. Hits me hard. What the hell? What the hell?
I
Edit
get it.
that, John. You got to edit that.
No, I'm not editing anything. If you could be Jonathan Frakes for a minute, we're not editing that.
Flobo, how do you feel knowing that they made the decision to make Benny Russell a successful author, which I love, but also he's canon, like he existed in the world of Star Trek.
That is true. I was like, oh, that's a cool Easter egg. But you're right. If they read that book, then he does exist. That is pretty cool. And that's representation, right? You write legacy for the next generation after. And we're seeing it now in real time. They're not black, but you look at the Harry Potter franchise, and now they're just now the second and not even third generation of people out there just loving these characters and love what they stand for. So that's pretty awesome.
I am so comforted by that. Also that Benny Russell is very much a thing. He actually does return in another later episode of Deep Space Nine. Very complex. I don't want to even just brush over it. It's the kind of episode we would watch, so I'm not going to give it away. But yeah, I'm really happy that we ended up here. The artistic touches that our good friend Avery Brooks, he's not our good friend. We just admire him.
He will be.
I hope for that every day. I hope every day I meet Avery Brooks and then he likes me. Every day. I wish I was joking. What really struck me was how beautiful this episode was. How there's so many, there's so much they did with lighting. There's so much they did with colors. Normally Deep Space Nine is a very like 3 or 4 color kind of show.
Yeah.
It's dark. The station is one sort of dark green. But also I wanted to bring this up as well. Avery Brooks loves jazz. And he is very much a musician and a singer. And did the music hit you?
Yeah, very Terrence Blanchard, very old school Spike Lee. So I guess it added to the. But I remember my former film professor, rest his soul, Tom Mankiewicz, who wrote Superman 78. That was directed by Dick Donner. He was like, "Hey man, if you want to make a city sound more cosmopolitan, add a trumpet, add a sax." I was always because he was talking about one of my favorite films he did. He directed called Mother Jugs and Speed. And you'll know there's the scenes where they play. But yeah, he was like, "Yeah, add a sax, add a trumpet."
That is so true, though, because there are haunting moments where you hear this kind of a Miles Davis at times.
Mm-hmm.
You know, this isn't bebop. This is that deep, like quartet jazz. Yeah, I just really loved it, and it just it did take me to another world. It's so cliched, but it did.
Yeah, very noirs.
We are at the end of this episode. Look, we found so much to talk about in such a relatively simple story. Would you recommend this episode? And if so, to whom?
Oh, wow. I'll recommend this one. Full stop. To fans of DS9 for sure, because if you're a fan of the show, having the recastings or the recharacters are always fun. But definitely should be in the group of when people try to tell me Star Trek is too woke. I joked about it before, but these are issues that existed back then, and it's always good to see how different series interprets this, and that gets to mature as well.
I 100% agree, and I think Deep Space Nine is really good at that. Deep Space Nine is very unflinching when it goes, let's take on a huge problem. And there's just something about Captain Sisko being in these huge problems that just lets you know it's a huger problem than it was when you first looked at it.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Anything left in your notes, Mr. Boyce?
Besides trying to see if there's any Andorian singles, let's check it out. I was like, why are we talking about Andor so many times? Okay, let's see. I said, yeah, great. Basically, it's a holodeck episode. That was before. And the visions from Bajor are back. Yay. That's something I totally asked for. Cassidy Yates Sisko is kind of hot as a waitress, but we already knew that. Yeah. Can't get mad at Douglas for not wanting to write the article. He does answer to a bunch of people. There are risks in that. But I didn't expect that 2448 Jake with the N-bomb. Whoa! That came out of nowhere.
Was that crazy? Was that crazy? I wonder, too. I mean, here's Avery Brooks directing Cirroc Lofton, and he's like, well, somebody's got to drop the N-bomb.
I'm like, the censors, the practices. What? Okay.
Syndication, man. Syndication.
I guess so. Story. I love his country. And even though it's supposed to be serious, that was the weakest fight scene I've ever seen. Stop. They're killing him. Stop.
Really not well shot, I had to say.
Just roll over.
Just turtle. Some people didn't grow up with Big Brothers, and it shows.
Yeah.
All right, man. Any tabs open on the browser that we?
Well, I was looking up Craig Lubin because he's the best fan ever. And we were talking about Vegas Vic before, so I have that, the history of Vegas Vic open, and also the Elysian Kingdom, the episode of Strange New Worlds. I'm going to go back and release Rex.
The next time you watch that episode of Strange New Worlds, or in our case, rewatch it, keep that in mind. It was written by Benny Russell. I love that.
What?
I think that's going to do it for this episode. I kind of wanted to, where are we on time?
A minute and a half?
I think we might be under an hour. I'm just, just so hoping. I love when we get under an hour. Mr. Boyce, how can people find you on the internet and support your great artistic work?
Oh, that's not true. But Affable Boys is where you can find me on social media. But I do have a Patreon, patreon.com/Flobo Boys. We call it the Boisterous Crew. We got bonus content. The book club episode is up this week. We have Flobo Tries. We have show notes. Everything come through.
I love being a member of Flobo's Patreon. You will love it too. You can find us here at Starbase 80 on Sundays. It is 2 p.m. on the East Coast and 11 a.m. on the West Coast. We'd love to see you every week, Flobo and I. And I think that's going to do it. So, Mr. Boyce, would you please say goodbye to the truth?
Well, live long and prosper.
Yeah, baby. Thank you, Flobo. Thank you for joining us. And yeah, that's awkward. I'm always looking like, okay. Thanks for being with us. Come back next week. I don't know what we're watching. It'll be fun.